Hi everyone and welcome to NameHero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. In today's video, I want to talk about the new cPanel pricing for our VPS hosting customers. And this is for all new deployments. If you're an existing VPS hosting customer, expect an email from me soon with details on how this will affect your account. But we just recently launched our fall sale across NameHero, so make sure to check out all of our web hosting, reseller hosting, as well as our VPS hosting products. So we've just set live this new sale and we're super excited to get it rolled out. But the purpose of this video specifically is to talk about the new cPanel license fee. So I'm going to head over here to our VPS hosting page if you want to follow along. And then I'm also going to reflect back to cPanel's original announcement. So this was a blog that I posted in mid-July. They towards the end of June, or right at the end of June, cPanel announced a new pricing structure. So you can go back and read this post. Actually, if you search in Google cPanel pricing NameHero, this post will come up. But you could also type it in the search box here, or just a little bit of this title in Google and it'll come up as well. But basically, in late June, cPanel kind of dropped a bomb on the industry and said that a license for cPanel no longer covers an entire server. It is now per account. So when it used to be, when you had a server, you would license cPanel, you could create whatever you wanted to create, and you're free to go from there. Well, now, depending on how many accounts you have on your server, depends how much the cPanel license is. So it's no longer one license fits all. And if you read this post here, you can see this is a screenshot of the old license structure. They did have a solo license, which was just for one account for $15 a month. Then they had their web host manager and cPanel for a VPS, which was $20 a month or $200 a year, which is a savings of $40. And then they had their cPanel and web host manager dedicated license. So this was for dedicated servers, and it was $45 a month or $425 a year, savings about $115. Then if you look down here, they used to have these volume discounts. So the more licenses you got yearly, the more you got off. And so a lot of providers, NameHero included, were able to leverage this discount to really be able to offer some great offerings with cPanel. Anyway, so then I highlight the new pricing structure for cPanel. So no longer is it one size fits all, and they've switched it up to have separate tiers. So let me go over here to cPanel's website. So these are the new tiers here. They have the solo, so you still have the one $15 a month account license. They originally, I think they got rid of this and they retracted it and brought it back. But now you have the Admin Pro and Premier. And Admin Pro and Premier. And so Admin allows for 5 accounts for $20 a month, the Pro 30 accounts for $30 a month, and then the Premier for 100 accounts for $45 a month. Each account over 100 is 20 cents each. So it's a dynamic, or they call it an auto scaling license. And so they said the reasoning for their license change was the power of the cloud. When cPanel was first developed, most often providers use traditional dedicated servers where they would just physically have a dedicated server. They would license it with cPanel. And then basically once the hard drives and resources started getting full, they would either add more resources to the server or just build another dedicated server. And so with the power of the cloud, essentially providers can host a lot more accounts than they used to be able to on a traditional dedicated, because with the cloud, right, you can instantly add resources and kind of scale on demand. So was the main reasoning for cPanels. At least that's what they said in their announcement. And if you go back here to my blog post, I said, that makes sense to me, because I realized that, I realized when I started NameHero, we are all on the cloud, that we were certainly hosting a lot more accounts on a VPS instance that's in the cloud versus an old school traditional dedicated server, because you don't have to worry so much about running out of resources as you can scale and kind of rotate through the different nodes and kind of even balance the cPanel accounts. However, I was a little bit surprised about not having a unlimited license. I kind of expected, when I first heard about this, I thought that the Premier license would be like an unlimited license, because really, it was a jump, but $45 a month really didn't seem that bad. But then this 100 accounts over 20 cents, that gets to where it gets pretty costly if you actually have, more than 100 accounts on a single server. And then we get down here, they changed up their partner model too. So the old discounts don't apply anymore. If you have more than 1780 cPanel accounts, they have a bulk pricing product, which changes this auto scaling to 10 cents instead of 20 cents. So that, I mean, it is a 50% break on, every account over 100. And they did add another license tier for partners. So there is some partner benefits, but it's just not as aggressive a partner program. And they also break down these licenses into cloud versus metal. So the metal are for actual dedicated servers. And this can be a dedicated cloud instance from what I've been told. So if it has a dedicated processor, if it's just dedicated to that instance, it applies to the metal license. Whereas a cloud license is for those on a vCPU, a virtual CPU, not a dedicated one. So I hope that kind of clears up, where Cpanel was, where they are now. And then I can kind of go into more of our pricing here at NameHero. So again, I go through the announcement and I talk about how the industry, the whole industry got pretty upset about it. And I tried to remain pretty cool because again, I did expect it, even though it was a good bit higher. And if we get on down here, we talk about how this affects NameHero. So obviously the big thing that I want to point out, there is no plans on changing existing web hosting or reseller hosting packages. So if you currently have your web hosting or reseller hosting package with us here at NameHero, Cpanel Web Host Manager, it remains how it is. We have no immediate changes being made to those two package offerings. However, for our VPS hosting, and as I put in this post, there would be some changes, and at the time we say we are currently still evaluating this because obviously it's no longer one license fits all. Previously we could just buy the VPS license, you got a big discount for having more of them, and then you could put how many accounts you wanted to on a VPS. Well, now it's tiered, so we have to make changes. And so this announcement and this video has to do with all VPSs that are new VPSs that are being deployed. And we made this transition with our fall sale. And so I'll go through these with you. So right now, here is our VPS hosting page. And we've kind of made some updates to our packages, so they're still instantly scalable. We still manage them all and secure them for you, and we still have SSD drives, so nothing's changed in that aspect. We still have our 4 packages, the 2, 4, 6, and 8. We did add more CPU cores to the 6. So the 6 used to be 4 CPUs, virtual CPUs, now it's 6. The Hero 8 GB is 8. Previously that was 6, so that's changed. We've also bumped these down to 1 dedicated IP. They were 2, but now we have 1 dedicated IP, and of course you can add as many as 10. We have the one that's standard. We doubled the bandwidth. So now instead of having 5 terabytes of outgoing bandwidth, all incoming bandwidth is free. So you're not charged for incoming bandwidth to your VPS, but outgoing bandwidth, we've doubled that number inside of the package. So we kind of want to make sure that we're reevaluating our offerings on a consistent basis and making sure that new deployments kind of match with the times. So these are now 10 terabytes monthly is included. And I think previously this was about $45 extra a month. So you're definitely going to save there. Now, again, these are all fully managed, and we'll get through more to that in a second. We still have our dev toolkit, which has, the Auto Ssl, your one-click Softaculous installer. This can support Ruby and Maria database, our server essentials. These are all still CentOS 7. They have SSD RAID 10s, PHP FPM or LSPHP. They are all Cloudflare ready, and of course still 99.9% uptime and 24/7 support. And remember that 99.9% uptime, that's not network uptime, that's actual VPS uptime. We pride ourselves in not only measuring our network uptime, but actual server uptime, because me working online for a long time, I know how much an hour of downtime can cost, and I don't want to just know that the network's up. I want to know that my website's online. And the final thing here we've added is if you look through these VPS packages and you don't see one that meets your needs, you can go over here to our Hero Flex Cloud, and you can actually build your own. So it comes standard with SSD RAID 10. You can still scale it on demand, meaning after you have it online, if you need to add more space, more RAM, more CPU, you can. CentOS 7 still comes installed, and it still has DDoS protection. However, when you go down here, you can see the configuration looks pretty standard. Name, your host name, your root password, your NS prefixes. But then you can slide this to pick how much disk space that you want. And so the price of your VPS instance changes based on how much resources you actually need. So you can put your vCPUs, your disk space, as well as your memory. Then if you go on down here, so these options are a little bit different than the pre-packaged ones, because since this is kind of the a la carte, it's a little bit different. So 5 terabytes of incoming bandwidth is free, or outgoing bandwidth rather, and if for 10 terabytes it's $40 a month. And if you go down to control panels, there's not a control panel included. It's just your basic CentOS 7 install with the core managed, meaning that CentOS 7 is installed with a basic LAMP stack, and we'll make sure that those core components stay updated. But if you would like to add a control panel, you can for the following pricing. And I don't want to talk too much about this yet, because I'm going to go back to our packages and discuss those. And then same with the backup plan. If you want to enable it, you can, and you can select how much backup space that you need. So that's the kind of the changes to our VPS. Now I want to get specifically into the cPanel license deal so you can see how much is different. So I'm going to demonstrate here with our 2 gigabyte. This VPS instance is good for those of you that are looking for, developing an application or maybe just getting started on your business. Me personally, I like to see about 4 gigs of RAM in a production server. So, if I'm launching my website on a VPS, I like the Hero 4 gigabyte, but if I'm just still getting stuff started, since we are in the cloud, I know I can upgrade it. So I could always start with the 2 gigabyte, kind of get things set up and then scale on up. So just keep that in mind. I just personally don't recommend it for, getting a lot of traffic, because 2 gigs of RAM is actually it's not a whole bunch, especially when you're talking about a VPS instance and you get into running a control panel on it. All right, so now when you drop down here to order, you can see we have our 1 year, 6 month, and 1 month price. So the longer you sign up, the more you save. Now these prices here, all these are based on the new customer discount. So this is based on, when you first start with this here at NameHero, our fall sale is 25% off, and this is the first invoice. So the longer you sign up, the more you're going to save. The shorter you sign up, the less that you save. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you sign up for a year, you're going to save a lot more than if you just sign up for month to month. All right, so let me just click the 1 month for now to demonstrate. Okay, so you get to choose, this is the primary domain for your VPS. So this is the default for the name servers. So, if you're a reseller, you probably want to enter your main hosting domain. If this is just a new VPS, maybe you want to register a new domain, or maybe you want to transfer an existing domain. It's up to you, but this is just the primary domain for the actual VPS. I've got one inside of my NameHero account, and I'm actually already using this on another VPS, so it might not accept it. Let's try keydiets.com, see if it'll go through here. And it did. It might here since it's a VPS, because what I want to do is I've got another VPS that we're going to compare here a little bit later in another video. Okay, so this just kind of confirms the whole package. Right? Instead of like the Flex Cloud, these are all packaged together. So you get 30 gigabytes of space, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 10 terabytes of bandwidth, 2 CPU cores, free SSL, CentOS 7, DDoS, and fully managed. All right. So now we're going to configure, this is the host name, so the name of the server. I'm just going to use ryancpanel.keydiets.com. And then root password. You want to make this extremely strong. You should never be able to guess your root password. Don't use, for example, I wouldn't use the password Ryan Gray. That would be kind of silly, because obviously that's easy to guess. So I'm going to use something extremely strong and hard. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm going to put it inside of here. Now make sure you write this down. You will see it one time in your welcome email, and you can retrieve it in our client area if you enable two-factor on your phone. So just keep that in mind as well, but make that tough. Your name server prefixes. So this is for your name servers. Most often you use NS1 and NS2. Now this is for those that just are setting up a new server without any name servers on it. I actually am using Keydiets for another server right now, so I want to use NS3 and NS4 because 1 and 2 are already in use. So this is personal preference, but I think most of you watching this will use NS1 and NS2. I'm just going to use more because Keydiets is already in use. So it's going to be NS3.keydiets, NS4.keydiets for this VPS instead of the 1 and 2. All right, so now we get down to control panel and we can talk about the Cpanel tiers. So we just recently announced that Interworks, the Interworks control panel, is free on all VPS hosting packages. So if you're not familiar with Interworks, I already have tons of videos coming out on our YouTube, and you can go watch those and see if you want to use that. But Interworks is an option that allows you to have unlimited accounts. So you're not going to be billed more if you have 5 accounts, 10 accounts, 100 accounts. There's no difference in the licensing of the control panel. Now here's the cPanel. So Web Host Manager and cPanel is, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 options now. You have the 5 account option. So this will allow you to have up to 5 cPanel accounts, and it's $10 a month. So as I promised in my post here, how we were going to handle the cPanel deal is it's our goal to absorb as much of the cost as possible. Don't use their updated pricing as a guide. So you can see here, if I go to cPanel, the 5 account license is $20, and we're making that available for $10. The 30 accounts, if we go over here to cPanel, is $30. We're making that available for $15. So 50% off, 50% off. The 50 accounts, they don't offer that one. So this is a special tier. And we're giving that out for $20 a month. And then the 100, so this would be like the Premier, is 30. So you can see over here, the Premier 100 is 45. So not quite 50 on that, but definitely a more substantial savings than going direct. And by the way, if you want to go direct and get your own license, you can do that with our Flex Cloud. You can just get a traditional CentOS 7 server and bring your own license. But this is if you're going to get your license with us inside one of our predefined packages. So these are the tiers. Now, if you need more than 100 accounts, of course, we can get you a special tier for your VPS. With the Hero 2 gigabyte, you're not going to reach more than 100 accounts on that. With the Hero 8 gigabyte, it's probably going to be a stretch. You're probably going to run into some issues. Maybe not, but 120 gigabyte space, having over 100 accounts, I don't think that's going to be applicable. But of course, if you need more, we can, of course, provide you that pricing. But these are just the predefined pricing we have. And again, these are all pricing per month. So $10 a month, $15 a month, $20, $30 a month. And so again, it's up to you which one that you want to add, what's most applicable to your business. If you need to upgrade this, of course, we can do that for you. Let's say you start with 30 and then you need to get access for 50. Then we can, of course, bring you up here to the next tier to give you that access. Then once you get to 50, then we can, if you need 65, we can give you the 100 tier here and we can change that for you. So that's the cPanel options. Increase by about $10, 15, 20, 30 a month. However many accounts you need determines how much the price is for the license. So that's the main difference here. Now for this demo, I'm just going to do the 5 license. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this VPS just to show. Monthly bandwidth, as I said, this has now been increased for free. So 10 terabytes is standard. Number of IPs, if you need more than one, you can choose how many total IPs you want to have on your VPS. So you can get up to 10 for $22.50 a month, or you can just use the 1, or you can get 2 for $2.50. It's really up to you. And with IPs too, you can always add these at any other time. So once you get going, if you need a dedicated IP for a specific site, you can order it then. A lot of our resellers, that's what they'll do, is they'll just provision with a couple of IPs, and then later on they'll have us add them inside of our interface. So either way you want to do it, I'm just going to do the standard one. Backup. So this is if you want to enable, these are off-site backups, and these are actually full server backups. So every night, this takes a full backup of your VPS and stores it. And you can restore these inside of our client interface, but these aren't cPanel backups. These are actual server backups. So when you restore them, they restore the entire VPS, not just one site, not just Web Host Manager, not just cPanel. It restores absolutely everything on the server. So when you do that, when you go to restore it, you need to be aware of that. Anything on the server that it's changed since that backup will be lost. And then these are priced per the quota. We previously priced these based on the day, but now we're doing it on the quota. So this will, if you enable this, this is 100 gigabytes of backups. So for example, our 2 gigabyte comes with 30 gigabytes of storage. You might not be using all of that 30 gigabytes. Obviously you're not using all of it, or you'd have to go to the next one. So maybe you're using 10 gigabytes, 15 gigabytes of space. Then it's going to apply to this quota. So day 1, 15 gigabytes. Day 2, it's going to back it up again. And then so 15, 15, that means you're using 30 gigabytes. So it will back up each day until you reach this quota, and then each day it'll begin to truncate the previous backups, so you continue to stay inside of your quota. If you need to add more, you can, so that would extend how many days that your VPS would be backed up. I think 100 is a good starting point, and these are monthly prices as well. If you don't want to use these backups, that's fine. You can do your own backup plan and all that, but these just keep it, it's automated and it's right inside of our interface. I like it just because it's all one place, and I don't have to go set up additional stuff. But again, you feel free based on your budget. Cloudflare with Railgun, this is an option if you want us to install this on site inside of your server. It's $29.95 one-time setup fee. We don't charge monthly. A lot of other competing companies out there from NameHero, they'll use this as a monthly upsell. We just charge the one-time fee just to get inside your server and set it up, because there's a little bit of manual configuration. But this does give you and all the accounts, all the cPanel accounts that you're creating, access to Cloudflare with Railgun. So again, it's up to you if you want it, but one-time fee. Cloud Linux OS, so this is a $25 a month fee. This allows you to create containerized hosting, which allows you to actually limit the amount of resources each cPanel account can use on the server. And this prevents one single cPanel account from taking down the whole server if it gets a traffic spike. So if you're reselling, you probably want to use Cloud Linux, but it's up to you. But if it's just a VPS for your sites, then you probably don't need it. But it's up to you, and you can always add this later as well. All right, I'm going to continue on. All right, so here's what our pricing looks like. So our $48.71 is what is due today monthly. And then ongoing, it's $64.95 a month, and that includes the base standard configuration. That includes the full management plan, as well as your cPanel 5 account license. And we didn't get the backup. So that's what your total is. If you sign up yearly, you save a lot more off the price. So just keep that in mind. This is a one-time discount, 25% for the first invoice. So the longer you sign up, the more you're going to save. So if you want a much lower rate, then you can pay a year up front. All right, so now I'm going to go to checkout, and I'm going to go ahead and complete this sign up, and then just go ahead and spin the server up and just show you where it goes and how to manage it and all that, and then we'll finish the video from there. All right, now my VPS order is complete. It typically takes about 5 to 10 minutes for a VPS to spin up online, and that's given there's no issues with your order. If you're a new customer, it might have to be verified manually and whatnot. So we just always ask, if that's the case, just have a little bit of patience, and we'll get to it very shortly. But at the end of your order, we do have a quick survey, and of course at NameHero, we're constantly trying to adapt, develop, and progress with our support and sales efforts. If you're enjoying your experience so far with us, we politely ask, if possible, to leave us some feedback. Let us know why you chose us, and kind of a quick message about your experience thus far. Your email address will be populated automatically, and feel free to leave your name or leave that blank. And again, this is only to follow up about your order. We're not going to spam you or sell your stuff or anything like that. I know me personally, I absolutely hate spam and stuff, so no worries there. That won't happen. And of course, if you just don't want to fill this out, hit the X. It's not a requirement. Okay, so I'm going to go to the client area, and this is my dashboard. Now I've got a demo account, so I've got a couple different servers in here, so I'll show you the one that we just spun up though. If I click on Cloud Web Hosting, I'm going for my Ryan Cpanel.keydiets, the Hero 2 gigabyte that we just spun up. All right, and so this is my dashboard. This is where I can manage and see the server that I just purchased or just spun up. If I go down here, you can see my login details. So this is how I access Web Host Manager, and this is using that root password that I created when we spun the server up. Now, obviously, I cannot view this in the client area for security if I don't have two-factor enabled. So all you need to do is click that link and go enable two-factor, and then those credentials will show. But that makes sure that you and only you can see those credentials for your server. It's for security. And, of course, if you don't enable two-factor, you just have to hang on to that root password that you defined when you set it up. Okay, so this is the host name of the server. I did ryancpanel.keydiets.com. My primary IP is here, and my name servers are right here. So remember, I have another one on Keydiets, so I'm just using 1 and 2. And I would actually need to go to where I'm managing the DNS for Keydiets and add this host name and this A record as well, since this domain is actually being used for another VPS. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you set these up, you have to configure your host name and your name servers at wherever your DNS is served. Okay, so here's the basics on the server. Start, obviously the server's already running. If I needed to shut it down, I could click shut down and actually turn the server off, and then start would turn it back on, very rarely are you going to ever use these. But they are options. I mean, you can turn it off real briefly if you need to. Reboot is obviously if you can't get into Web Host Manager, if you can't SSH in, you can always reboot it. This is kind of a hard reboot. Web Host Manager, this is your access to Web Host Manager. Cpanel, this is your Cpanel link. History, this shows the history of the server. And block storage. And again, you're not going to order this by default. So if you added some additional storage here, this would be shown here. If we go down here, we can see here's the server, IP, the template it's using, and of course it is running right now. If you have any messages about the severity of your server, maybe something goes offline or quits responding, it'll show up here. These aren't always real time, and sometimes you might get a message here, and it probably cleared before you even noticed anything, so just keep that in mind too. If you see an error here, you really want to look inside a Web Host Manager to see if it's an active error, if it was just like a network blurb or something. Okay, so when you click the Web Host Manager link, this is where you're going to go to set up your sites, add your cPanels, and configure everything. When you click it though, you're going to see this, your connection's not private. The reason being is this is a temporary Web Host Manager link. Most customers, when they first spin up their server, they don't have all their DNS set up. So we include the link to the IP address, and it uses a self-signed certificate. So it's not, since it's a dynamic type deal here. So it is secure. Obviously, you wouldn't use this for production, but this will allow you to access your Web Host Manager to get your site and everything set up. So it's good to advance and proceed, and then you can go to log in to Web Host Manager. And this always stays the same. Even when you set up your host name and stuff, you can access it directly from your browser, or you can change your Web Host Manager settings to redirect the IP to the host name. But by default, we just keep it here, and that's just so customers can always make sure they're accessing Web Host Manager of this server. So before, we've had confusion that even when someone sets up their host name, that maybe it's not propagated correctly, and it goes to an older server. So that's why we make sure that we hard code it to the IP to make sure you are inside the right server, so you're not messing with a server that's not live. Okay, I'm just going over here to my other window, and I'm going to grab my password. I saved it over here on another screen, and I will go ahead and log in here. So your default Web Host Manager login's root, and then we'll enter our password, a nice strong one that obviously I couldn't remember. And that brings us inside to the actual server. So the first thing you need to do is read through and accept the licensing agreement. You can print or save it. I've probably went through it a million times, so I'm going to go ahead and agree to all. And now this is Web Host Manager. So this is where I go to set up and configure my entire server. Obviously, the first thing that I would want to do is add an A record for this IP to this host name. That way, this will start resolving. Now, because key diets is being used on another server for me, I have to do this a little bit differently. But for you, you would just need to go to add a entry. And you can see right here, add an A entry for your host name. And so you just need to click here to add it. And this assumes that this domain is going to actually be on this server. The DNS is going to be managed by this server. Again, in my case, it's not, so it's going to be a little bit different for me to do. The next thing is you want to type in your name servers. So if I go over here to Basic Web Host Manager Setup and scroll on down here, you can see I've got NS1 and NS2. Remember, I use 3 and 4, so I just need to modify those to say 3 here and 4 here. Save it. Okay, and then once I do that, I need to go back over here to NameHero, and I need to actually register these with my domain. So if your domain, and Key Diets is registered at NameHero, but if your domain's registered at GoDaddy or Namecheap or your old host, you need to actually register those wherever the domain's registered. So I'm gonna go to Domains, My Domains, and I'm gonna go in here to keydiets.com. And I'm going to go back here and copy this IP. So I'm going to copy this to my clipboard. And I'm going to go to Private Name Servers. And I want to register NS3 to this IP. Save it. Then go over here and make sure that I still got that copied. And NS4 is my next one. 4. Paste. And save. And then I want to go over to my cPanel. Go back to Basic Web Host Manager Setup, configure address records, and I'm going to put the IP here. So here, configure, close, and I don't know why I didn't get 4 added in here correctly, but we'll try it again. 4, configure, close, and save. Now let's see, this should have 3 and 4 in here. 3 and 4. Okay, so now we're all set. Okay, so now the DNS records are actually set. So your final step would be that you need to change the name servers for key diets to match whatever your name servers are. So if you wanted key diets to be hosted on this server, you would need to update the key diets domain to use these name servers. Now, as I said, I'm using this for another server. So I actually need to go into my other server and create A records on that side. So wherever you're managing your DNS. And again, most people are going to keep their primary domain on their server. So they would just set this up. They would change their name servers to this. Now remember, this is a new VPS, so I don't have any data in here. So it's not going to pull up a site. So keep that in mind too. If your domain's being used for a site, you want to migrate your data before you do that. The final thing that I recommend doing is setting up Auto Ssl. As I mentioned, all hosting packages at NameHero come with Auto Ssl. But right here in Web Host Manager, I can just type in Auto, and you can see Manage Auto Ssl. And you can see it's by default, it's enabled to have cPanel's default module. If you wanted to add Let's Encrypt, you could. And I've got other videos to show you how to do that. But you just want to make sure this is enabled here because this is going to automatically generate SSL certificates for all the sites that you add. And again, this is cPanel's own module here. And they've just recently updated this. And you know, I like it. I think it's pretty good. So you can always add the Let's Encrypt module, but I've seen pretty good success with this one. So this is on here, and again, Let's Encrypt is a third party that you can add as well. But automatically at midnight tonight, this is going to check all sites created or all accounts on this server, and as long as the DNS is propagating or the DNS is served by this, it'll generate that SSL for free and automatic. So that's it. That's how you set up a cPanel Web Host Manager VPS. Real big changes beside that licensing deal. If I go back here to my client area and I go to upgrade, downgrade options, you can see if I ever needed to change that cPanel license, let's say I wanted to go more than 5 accounts, I could always go here and add it. Now, the important thing is if I wanted to move to Interworks, this here is not going to change the server. The server actually has to be rebuilt or remigrated if I wanted to completely switch control panels. So keep that in mind. If you do that, we would then contact you and say, hey, we see you want to change to Interworks, then we need to schedule up a migration because the actual entire server has to be migrated. So keep that in mind. But if you need to bump up to the next tier, you can just do that right here. And likewise, if you need to add bandwidth, which I don't see that happening, but if you do, you can here. IPs, I recommend contacting sales as they'll provide that in a much quicker fashion. And you can enable backup as well. So that's how you manage your server, your VPS with cPanel and Web Host Manager at NameHero. Not any huge changes. Again, just that licensing tier, which as you can see, we are discounting very heavily. And as a note, we don't receive a break from cPanel on the pricing. It kind of is what it is. We do have a different tier, but they did increase their prices across the board. So we tried to make that as manageable as possible and to really with little impact compared to previous deployments here at NameHero. If you're an existing customer, we'll certainly get with you on how that affects your account and have much more of that information in the coming weeks and months to come. But that's how the new tiers work. Again, if you're looking for an unlimited option, I do recommend checking out Interworks. Even if you're currently using Web Host Manager or cPanel, the migration is pretty smooth. I know there's a couple humps we have to get through, but we can, of course, migrate that for you. And I'm going to do more videos too to compare that as well. So you have other options, but if you're stuck with cPanel Web Host Manager, we have that, of course, on all of our web hosting and reseller hosting packages as well. So I completely understand, but this is just how the licensing works now. It's per server on how many accounts that you need that you define, and then if you ever need to upgrade, you can go in here and change that out, and we'll make sure that the correct key is applied to your VPS. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. We 24/7, 365 support via phone, tickets, and chat. Just click support here at the top, and you can do your tickets on here. Or if you go to the knowledge base, you can go down here, and you can see, you can call us, you can spin a chat up right here, or you can, of course, open a ticket here, and we will reply within 15 minutes. So again, let us know if you have any questions. Thanks a bunch for using NameHero.com.